Hey guys, American Pizza Books here. I'm back with another video, and I've got my cat Chester with me right here. But this is going to be another book review, and the book I'm going to be reviewing today is Bad Moon Rising by Jonathan Maberry. Now, this is the last book in the Pine Deep trilogy by Jonathan Maberry. I have done reviews for the other two books, so if you want to check those out, then go ahead and do that. But yeah, this is the conclusion, and I've got to say it was pretty decent. Nothing, it didn't blow my mind or anything, but I mean, like, it was pretty good. So basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that I liked, the good stuff, in my opinion. Remember, this is just all opinion based, but some of the good stuff, and I'll get to the stuff that I didn't think was as good. So the good stuff, getting to the good stuff, the pacing in this book was pretty good. I mean, for the most part, it was pretty fast paced. I mean, you still had occasionally you still had some slow moments in there. But for the most part, the pacing was pretty good. The conclusion, how everything was tied up in the end, Jonathan Maberry, he did a pretty good job of telling you what ended up happening to everybody, and he kind of also left a cliffhanger too a little bit. He kind of left he almost made it seem like there might be like a spin-off or a sequel to this trilogy in the future. Will there be? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. It'd be interesting to see. I mean, I'd probably read it if there was, but yeah. And the characters were I'd say they were pretty well fleshed out. I mean, they're far from being cardboard cutouts. You know, I feel like they are, as far as character development goes and everything like that, they've come a long way from where they were in the first book, where I felt like most of the characters were just not very deep or anything. But yeah, I definitely feel like the characters were fleshed out a lot in this series, and they've been fleshed out even more in this book. Oops, sorry about that. But yeah, so far from being cardboard cutouts, at the same time, they're probably not going to be characters that I'm going to go back and remember, you know, like Tom Cullen from The Stand, or you know, just iconic characters. So I mean, the characters aren't like like I said, basically, they're not going to be characters that I'm going to go back and be like, oh, hey, yeah, you know, Malcolm Crowe and Terry Wolfe and Val Guthrie and all that stuff. But I mean, at the same time, they're not cardboard cutouts, and they're definitely fairly deep characters. So that's another good thing about this book. Another good thing, in my opinion, is that most of the trilogy has really just been build up. Like, you've gotten like scary moments in the second book and in the first book, but it's really just been teasing you, and then finally in this book we just get the vampire breakout. We get the vampires just attacking the town and killing people and all that gory fun and everything. In my opinion, it's fun. So yeah, there's a lot of gore in this book, but it definitely gets you. It definitely raises some hairs on the back of your neck, and yeah, it's pretty. Gets pretty terrifying in this book. I mean, it didn't really scare me, but like it's you know, there's a lot of people that get killed by the vampires and everything, and so it's just good fun and everything. I know it sounds kind of morbid and kind of weird, but still. So yeah, the pacing, the characters, you know, the wrap up, for the most part, I'm going to get to that, though there's something I didn't care for. And this the plot, the way it was executed, because in the book, the character Vic Wingate, who is probably one of the antagonists of the book, you actually get a glimmer, like because one of my complaints was that the villains, they did get a little bit of development in the second book, but I feel like the villains are like, they're just evil for whatever reason. And there's not really that much more to them. But in the book, Vic Wingate, like, even though he is a terrible person, even though he is a completely awful, awful person, you actually get a glimmer, like a tiny glimmer of maybe a little bit of goodness in him, because Vic Wingate is the alcoholic stepfather of Mike Sweeney, who plays a big role in this book. Because you find out that Mike Sweeney is, spoilers I guess, but you find out that Mike Sweeney is actually a Dampier, so he's like half vampire, I guess, or something like that. He's something like a Dampier, and basically it's his job to hunt and kill vampires and everything, and that's kind of what he was made for. But yeah, and Vic Wingate is his stepfather, And in the book, Mike Sweeney's mother actually gets turned. I think she got turned in, I want to say towards the end of the second book or at the beginning of this book. But yeah, and he's you know, he's thinking about it and everything, and he's kind of like he doesn't want to admit it to himself, but he's kind of upset that that happened because he realized that he might have actually cared for Lois, Mike's mother, a little bit, even though we saw that he treated her like absolute shit. You know, it shows that he might have actually cared for Lois, like, so that right there, like, it doesn't like redeem him or anything, like, it doesn't like he's still like a very, very, very much a villain, very much a bad person. But like that little thing right there, I was just like, wow, that's interesting. You know, that's a little bit of development there. You know, I mean, you know, so he's not just through and through just your average bad guy. Like, there's a little bit of goodness in there, maybe, or just something that's not just pure like evil and sadistic. But yeah, so yeah, overall, those are pretty much all the good things, and you know, and completely forgot what I was going to say before I went on that tangent about Vic Wingate, because Vic Wingate has been planning this all along, the vampire breakout on the town and everything, and that's kind of executed here, so that was pretty cool. And there definitely were some more character deaths in this book, so so I guess that would be it for the good stuff. Now on to the stuff that I didn't really care about, or not that I didn't care about, but I just didn't like, I didn't enjoy as much. So, I guess, let's see, I guess really the one thing that I didn't care for was the main villain of the book. Now, the main villain, Ubel Griswold is his name. We kind of, we get, everyone talks about him, like the antagonist and the protagonist of the books, you know, talk about him and everything, and, you know, he's just this really malevolent, just evil being, and he's just like, you know, and we finally get, he finally comes to life, and he gets a body and everything, and he's like this giant, just made up of all types of stuff, like even like insects and everything. It was pretty creepy, but kind of pretty interesting the way Maberry described him. But he finally gets a body. But the thing is that you only get to experience Ubel Griswold in his physical form for like 25 to 30 pages, if that. And then but then they just defeat him and everything, and you know, and the stuff that he said and stuff that he did, I mean, he's definitely evil and he's definitely powerful, but like, I don't know, I felt like we could have gotten more with him as a physical presence, you know, because he's really just kind of a spiritual presence that everybody talks about, but you don't really hear from, and then finally, when you get that, you don't get it for very long, and then he's just killed off. So I felt like he could have gotten a little more development, and I felt like he was really just your typical, you know, evil for the sake of being evil villain. You know, you don't really get much from him as a physical presence. You kind of just get him for, like I said, like maybe 20, 25, maybe 30 pages, and then the protagonist kill him off. So it was kind of underwhelming, kind of a disappointment, in my opinion. I mean, just my opinion. And then Terry Wolfe, who, in my opinion, is arguably one of the most developed characters in this book, if not the most developed. He turns into a werewolf towards the end of the second book, and then we get him in this book, and he's pretty much in a comatose state for most of the book, but then he wakes up, and he's basically a werewolf, and he goes and helps out Malcolm Crowe and Val Guthrie and Mike Sweeney, and because towards the end of the book they went into the forest to battle the vampires and everything, and to stop what was happening. And we get Terry Wolfe coming in his werewolf form, and he kind of just gets killed. Like, the Ubel Griswold just kills him, and that's pretty much it. We don't really hear anything else from him. He just gets killed off and everything. So it's like, man, like, you took one of the most developed characters and you just killed him off, and we don't get anything else. We just, yeah. So I don't know. It just felt like a pretty underwhelming conclusion with that character, you know. I mean, but I guess whatever. So that's another thing that I didn't care for. So yeah, I mean overall, you know, overall it's a pretty good trilogy. I mean, it's nothing groundbreaking. It's nothing complete real special, but it's still a pretty decent trilogy. I mean, as a whole, I'd probably give it like maybe a 4 out of 5 as a whole trilogy. For this book, I'd probably give this book like maybe probably a 4 out of 5, I'd say. So I mean, yeah, overall, you know, pretty decent ending. Not great, but pretty good ending. Pretty good trilogy overall. I'd recommend checking it out. I'll definitely be reading more of Jonathan Maberry's works in the future. I want to check out the Joe Ledger series, and I've also got the complete Rot and Ruin series. So I'll be checking more of his works out. But yeah, that's basically it for this one. So again, if you haven't checked out the Pine Deep Trilogy by Jonathan Maberry, I'd recommend it. And yeah, so that concludes this review, and I'll talk to you guys later. So peace, and have a good day.